Okay. It is 5:03. I'll call us to order for the September meeting of the River Valley Technical Center Board of Directors. Do we have any changes or additions to the agenda?
We do not.
Okay, and any public comments? Seeing and hearing none, I'll move on to the consent agenda. Would entertain a motion to accept, please.
So moved.
Liza and second, or Lois, and then by Liza. It's alliteration. Anything to add to the consent agenda?
Other than we're in pretty good shape as far as financials. We're projecting a $1,600 surplus. A lot of that has to do with getting a few more Fall Mountain students than what we initially thought. A lot of it has to do with Keene was unable to secure a criminal justice instructor, so we picked up a few students there. And plus, as I talked about, we've hired some new employees, and we project maybe a worser case scenario on what the benefits and salary will be when we do that. And some of it is a little bit different because you don't know who you're going to hire. We usually project at the middle of the master's scale with a family plan, and we found that that serves us well. And if it doesn't go that way, then sometimes there's some savings there. In addition, we'll talk to it a little bit later, is the use of reserve funds, which was part of our plan. So stay tuned. It's really early, but it's good to know that we're closer and it's a lot better. So we'll see how it goes. But that's also in the enrollment piece. We're about 20 ahead where we were last year at this time. The latest is 268 full-time students in regular program. That doesn't include what we do as far as intros this year versus 249 last year. But this year is one of the highest years at Coralie, our registrar, about the movements of students adding and dropping and movement from wait lists and all of that, that she remembers in recent years. So there'll be even more changes in that. So we'll see where it ends up, but it's good to know that we're ahead and all that. The other thing is, and Bob has said in previous meetings, back to pre-pandemic levels. So I asked Coralie to put together, hey, what does the last 10 years of our enrollment look like? And we're in the ballpark of pre-pandemic enrollments. And that front part of that 10 years was with the 10-year look. It was with at least another full-time person in the ADP program. Now we're getting back to that with the program that we're partnering with VTBLC and all of that. But then also, I think some of those years might have been an additional culinary instructor. So we're kind of getting back to those levels with maybe a little more efficiency. And I think also the full FTEs we projected that we'll get back to playing out the 6 semester averages next year in FY25, but it is trending in the right reason, even though there's fewer students from our sending schools. And I think that it's just CTE is a thing that kids are gravitating towards these days. So feeling pretty good about it. But again, there's a lot of schedule changes happening right now, and it'll all matter at budget time on October 15th, but hopefully it holds on.
Any comments or questions for Scott on anything in the consent agenda? I guess I would just comment that after a very hectic spring and summer, it all came together.
Yeah.
And that's thanks to staff and everybody who worked so hard on that. So thank you.
Yeah, the staff did a good job of being smart about spending and being conservative as far as budgetary stuff at the end of the year.
Great. Okay, those in favor of accepting the consent agenda, please raise hands or say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Okay, old business, VTVLC, and very pleased to have Ashley with us.
And Jen?
Well, Jen on the screen, but Ashley's right there, and it's her birthday.
That's right.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Nothing like a board meeting on the birthday, yeah.
You know, they happen during my vacation, during my birthday. So I think they're planned that way.
We're not singing.
That's okay. Please do. Okay, so I'll go ahead and I'll start with our financial report, which is part of the packet. So just to do some clarification, our FY24 net revenue was $249,651. There is a slight variance to this as teacher payment shifts and changes when students complete their classes. As mentioned last month, we are looking at around $353,000 to dip into our reserves, and that's as we have it currently constructed, and that will fluctuate as we look at predicted enrollment and the projections that come with that. One of the things that we have sort of blown out of the water lately is our custom projects. So we are addressing quite a few of the teacher shortages around the state. So we have 4 very healthy and robust custom projects, mostly in the area of world languages, Spanish and French. So we are servicing the RSU's 3 different middle schools for Spanish and French. Lake Region, we're doing a custom project for students in Spanish 3 and Spanish 4. Browns River has a Spanish immersion program, and for their middle school students, we're also doing Spanish. And a little bit closer in Bellows Falls, we are doing a custom health project. So one of the things that we are working with that is that enrollment numbers will be finalized. Many students in the rosters were due this week. And so as those shift, but currently it's around 160 students that we're performing these custom projects for. And continue to have additional schools contact us when they are unable to find an alternative.
It's great that the pandemic helped you have the ability to ramp up quickly.
Yeah, Chris?
So I just wanted to know a little bit about the custom project, particularly since you have the health one in Bellows Falls. Does that just mean that you've worked with the high school to meet some additional health instructional needs?
Yes, so there was a gap in instruction for actually a teacher at Bellows Falls. And so what we did was we filled it in. So I was there this morning, meeting with a group of students, onboarding them. And I was there this afternoon, also onboarding them into what we call an introduction class of how to really learn online, what the expectations are. And then they'll have their content start in about 2 weeks when they finish the intro course. And that will be facilitated by a VTVLC teacher. We are really fortunate to have this teacher be able to do discussions and welcome calls during the student's actual block of time. Sometimes we're not able to do that and they have to be after school or at various hours. But in this case, we were able to meet the students at 8 a.m. or 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And it was great to connect with students. It's the first time that many of them are learning online or have a different learning experience from the pandemic. So just right away, here are some basic skills of, how are you going to email your teacher? How are you going to share things appropriately? What are you going to do to submit your assignments? And really, truly the value of reading. So looking at the directions, what are we asking you to do? How do we find those resources? So we are really excited to have that project.
Great.
So, yeah, we'll have 32 students, 32 to 40 students this semester, and again, another 32, 40 students second semester.
Just Bellows Falls students.
Yep.
And it's what I'm hearing you say is it's synchronous. So you're able to make it scheduled into their day.
We have been. The majority of their learning will be asynchronous, but the times in which that would fall for synchronous learning, we'll be able to accommodate them.
Great. Sounds great. Thanks.
We are very excited. In addition to that, we were looking at their flexibility. They wanted to have some guest speakers come in. So we're going to tailor our curriculum to make sure that we stop and pause when those guest speakers come in and then reflect and reiterate on what's being taught.
Great. Thanks.
You're welcome. Again, on the financials, I'll just pull it back. So we are excited the GMS JED open, I want to say last week. So we do have all of our information into the GMS system for the AOE, and it's all been inputted. And we're just looking for Christine's second set of eyes to ensure that we did it correctly.
GMS, Post Grants Management System.
Grants management
I
system.
was wondering about that, so I'll have a heads up too, thanks.
You're welcome. Any questions about our financial update?
You're in the black. Chris? You're muted.
So it looks like you're anticipating, am I reading this right? A surplus of a little over 500,000?
Yes.
And how does that work for VTVLC? I understand how it works for a regular old school district, but how does that money get allocated? What happens with that?
I think to clarify, not surplus, you mean fund balance.
Okay. Yep, may very well be an important difference, which I'm not clear on. So if
So
you
sorry.
anticipated ending fund balance June 30, books get closed out on June 30, 2024?
So we do, so one of the things I did mention earlier is that that is one of our best guesstimates. So when we have students enroll in classes, they have 6 months to complete it. So a student may enroll in a class in May and then have 6 months to complete it. So we cross fiscal years. So we always take our best guess of when teachers will be paid, when courses will be paid. But currently, we did set on a very healthy reserve, and reserve was, I will say, due in part to the pandemic,
Yeah.
well as our custom projects, which is allowing us to dip into those reserves to continue to support our full-time K-12 program. We, as Rob was saying, have around $589,000, and that money and those funds will, you'll see an allocation next month in regards to what those reserves will be used for. So we've dipped below what we would like to currently have in our reserves, and so we're going to redo our reserve system to make sure that we have money available for our tech department, and basically the infrastructure of BTVLC.
So what is your target? Because I see that you started on July 1st. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Never mind. So it's below what you want it to be. What do you want it to be?
Our target in the past, as conversation with both Christine and Nancy, has run at around 653,000.
Okay. All right.
And then
Great.
you started the conversation about regular school district. This is a separate fund that kind of rolls year to year because the AOE keeps, adds to it as they make proposals about how things will operate. So some of it's for new programs, so on and so forth, but it operates a lot like a 5 account or something like that, where it just replenishes itself. They report back to the AOE of where it stands and what we're going to do with it. And it's really the way that when BTVLC was established, that they asked us to run it. And, so you get
I'm perfectly fine with it. I just was asking out of ignorance. So
And I'll be curious to see next month or a couple months down the line what the impact of those custom projects is on your financials, because you're going to blow away your budget line item for that.
Yeah.
But we do anticipate that.
which is good.
It's good.
A lot of work though.
It has been. We've been very fortunate. Having no other questions about our financial report, I'd like to share about marine biology. Last month, I did share that our original marine biology trip did not end up taking off, and they will be going in next year. And then we are asking for approval for our next marine biology trip. And just a little bit about our marine biology trip. There was a presentation that was included in the board packet. I hope you had an opportunity to review that. It is an incredible hands-on application of course knowledge. It is an interaction with experts in the field. We have 2 potential locations. One is in Bermuda and the other one is Caracal. I don't know if I said that correctly. It sounds like it did. We will not know the location until we know our full enrollment numbers, because they often have caps or minimums that we want to make sure that we're able to fit those. We are asking that the trip will be the second or last week of June, and we are hoping to have enrollment start by early December. We are very fortunate to have Tara Evans, who works in our technology department, who is coordinated this presentation and is one of the trip coordinators, and then we have Brian Slocum, who is the teacher who facilitates.
So we'll take action on this at the end of the VTVLC report, but any questions or concerns about that? This is pro forma for those that have been on the board. We do it every year. You don't get to go.
I know, I'd love to go. You guys tried to go this year in June, but there was hurricane. Is that what it was?
Yes.
Yeah. So you're gonna risk it again.
So this is the funny part. The hurricane actually did not hit the Caymans. What ended up happening is the plane got grounded in Burlington due to a mechanical. And by the time they were able to leave, the students would have been stuck in Newark. One of the reasons why we're shifting locations is that there is multiple planes that go from Grand Cayman to Little Cayman, but they fill up so quickly, and they only take 17 people. And so rescheduling that kind of chaos really taught us a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we learned quite a bit.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll come back to that.
The next part that I have on here that didn't make it to old business, and you can tell me if you do this or not, was an advisory board member.
Good.
Okay, so you may know that we renewed our advisory board last year. It's a collaboration of our key stakeholders around the state. What we ask of our advisory board is to help us and assist in identifying needs and how VTBLC could potentially meet those needs. One of the examples that came out of the advisory board was the need for dual enrollment online, and we have been working with Vermont State University to get 3 classes potentially for dual enrollment. We have one that is statistics for the spring. Our meetings are online, and we are looking for another board member from this board to join our advisory board.
We currently don't have one, I
We
presume.
currently do not have one.
So we'll put anybody on the spot, but we'd love to have you all seriously consider it. Jenna Scarfield served in that role for many years. And I think she found it worthwhile, and I think it's a great interconnection between the organizations, so.
Next on our agenda is we have our online and blended learning conference. We are excited to have it at the newly renovated Stoke Lake Mountain Resorts. We are focusing on elevating voices tomorrow, shaping the future of education. And our major focus is to look at all flexible pathways under Act 77.
Great.
And then lastly, our current enrollment numbers. An interesting fact is that 57% of our K-8 students are returning. We have over 50 full-time 9 through 12 students. This year, we have a large increase in our collaborative diploma program. So this is for students operating in students residing in non-operating towns or districts. We currently have 19 students, and they are either placed in Richburg, White River Valley, or Hazen, depending on their geographical location. We're looking at over 285 fall traditional class enrollments, with students having up until September 11th to join. And we currently have 429 on-demand enrollments. Any questions?
Any questions for Ashley or anything from Jen to add to what we've discussed? Nope. Okay, so we'll come back to the marine biology thing. As I said, this is normal course of business, and we look for a motion to approve the VTBLC marine biology trip scheduled for the 3rd week of June 2025. Jess makes the motion and Liza seconds it. Any discussion on the motion? Those in favor, please raise hands or say aye. Anybody opposed? Thank you. And thank you, Ashley. We're good? All right. And happy birthday.
Thank you.
Scott, technology equipment reserve spend down update.
Yeah, this is just the update. We spent pretty close to our $30,000 reserves in the technology area. This is the most natural place to do it because that's what teachers asked for in last year's budget. So that's the most logical place for us to use the technology reserve. We spent just shy of $8 grand in equipment, and of course we haven't touched any facilities piece, and it's using these funds as helping us get a little bit closer on balancing our budget. Hopefully, as we develop a little bit more of a surplus with some more enrollments, that we're able to replenish some of these funds. But they have been very useful as far as us getting through this year.
And the other thing about the enrollments, Scott talked about that before. October 15th is a magic date because that kind of seals it for this year. And then when we get to budgeting, this year will replace the COVID year.
Yeah.
So that'll be helpful. Yeah. All right. Any questions about the reserve fund spend down? Okay. Instructor status update.
Yeah. Last meeting, you authorized me to offer the criminal justice position on consultation. We hired Tim Gould. He's going to retire in December, state trooper. He's signed his contract on back to school night, and then he went out and met all the criminal justice parents and with Mark Chase, who has agreed to stay and have a week of overlap, and it's worked out very, very well. And Tim was pretty excited to actually meet parents and students and but it was a worrisome summer trying to find people, because I think we had 3 near misses on this position, if I remember correctly. So it's glad that it all worked out.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, Tim is great. He's a close friend through Scouts,
Mhm.
and he's fantastic. So
very
it's
excited.
gonna be, yeah, he is excited. He approached me
Good.
and told me, and I was like, okay, awesome, very excited. So yeah, I think that's fantastic.
Never a doubt.
Yes.
Any questions on that for Scott?
Can I talk about the overlap with Mark?
Yes.
Yeah, there's about a week overlap in early January, and then Mark has agreed to be available to help Tim as the year progresses, so.
Yeah, that's great.
And thanks to Mark for
Yeah, absolutely.
jumping in, and
Yes.
helping us out.
Or Mark's wife for not wanting him around all day, whoever we're thinking, we're glad Mark's here. Well, I heard one of the students come in for level 2 and give Mr. Chase a hard time. You're tricky, Mr. Chase. You were here and then you came back. Why are you trying to trick us, Mr. Chase?
All right, new business, statewide CTE update.
Yeah, for you guys that have been on the board for a long time, here we go again. We've updated our ask letter from last year. We've updated that letter, I think, 3 times in the last 3 years. But it's really at the urging of the Vermont Superintendents Association, who wants to support what we want out of the work that's happening statewide on the future of public education in Vermont, at least have what we asked for up front. There's a meeting on the 12th in Killington of superintendents. They want to be able to say, hey, how do we feel about it? And by the way, you approved basically the same thing last year as part of what the Superintendents Association would help us with. The regional superintendents are on board with that. We just met last Friday right here in this meeting. We've changed a letter very minorly based on actions in the last legislative session, which is basically the governor's budget included an additional person in the work group that oversees CTE from the Agency of Education. We also are putting a letter together because the early college program requires high school students to totally drop their high school and CTE programs to start the early college program. We lost 7 students to the early college program. 5 of those students would like to be able to do both, but really a policy decision 2 years ago within the agency changed all of that. I think that early college consists of, sometimes you go to Norwich campus, sometimes you go to the campus, if you go to the Governor's Institute at Vermont Tech, but some of it is you take online classes with CCV where there may be that flexibility. Actually, CCV would be interested in supporting us in this, so there'd be flexibility. So that's a new thing. So kids can do both. And it seems like it isn't really supportive of flexible pathways by saying you can't take a CTE class and do early college. So we got a letter going out as far as that. And then this is kind of new today. APA is the consultant on the legislative study. They've also been contracted to work for the agency on the work they're doing for the study of public education in the state of Vermont. The directors feel it's, at least APA knows us very well based on their work. Since the time of putting these minutes together, they've asked Melissa Connor and I, who were on the original committee, advisory committee for the APA recommendations, to come back. They want to share some of the governance recommendations that they have, and they want to meet next week. So I think it's somewhat good that they want to solidify some of the CTE stuff before the larger picture stuff. But again, who knows how it all goes? There's a lot of politics between now and then. Bob agrees, but we'll see what they say, and we'll share it here.
Any questions or thoughts on any of that, Scott? Okay. Annual audit update.
Christine would love to be here. We had a clean audit this year. We had RHR Smith and Company here on August 14th and 15th. I wasn't allowed to leave the building while they were here. And again, we were fortunate to have Christine working for us. We are very, very lucky. So make sure you tell her, Tina, that I said good things about her at the board meeting again.
We all do.
I tell her that all the time.
And she told me a little bit about it, and with all the complexity of the stuff that goes on here, we're blessed to have someone like her, and that the auditors agreed, and no findings, no nothing, so.
That's great.
How many years in a row?
Yeah, exactly.
And also because of the size of the ESSER funding that went to VTBLC, there was a standalone audit too, where she was informing some of the folks at the Agency of Education about how it should go, because how they were looking at it was different from how they should be looking at it and how they initially. So again, fortunate to have Christine.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, substitute teacher rate of pay.
Yeah, we just want to make sure that we're as competitive as possible, and that we want to make sure we retain our 2 or 3 very dedicated substitutes. It's a rarity to have dedicated substitutes now, and we want to keep them. We were at $125 and $70 this year for a full day versus a half day. We would asking the board to basically move those two up $5 to $130 for a full day of substituting and $75 for a half day.
Any heartburn on that or any concerns? Chris?
Well, how does that compare locally?
Ball Mountain, Bellows Falls, that you're at 120 a day. Springfield is in that ballpark, but we didn't get the exact figures, but I think they're at 125, and then it's different if because we moved them up to be where Springfield was at last year.
Mm-hmm.
And Springfield also pays a differential if the person has a degree, they pay a little bit more. So it's right in that ballpark.
Okay.
So look for a motion to approve the increase in pay rates for substitute teachers to $130 per day or $75 for a half day.
So moved.
And seconded by Liza. Any discussion on the motion? Those in favor, please raise hands or say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Opening of school, back to school night.
Yeah, back to school night. Our atrium isn't big enough, but we don't have enough chairs. We had over 100 parents and first year students here, which is awesome. And Corley does a nice job of organizing this, but it really is a short presentation by me and Derek about what kind of school we run here. Like, if I was a first-time parent, what would I want to know about the school? I'm not talking about college credits and all of that. I'm talking about how students feel about what they're learning and how safe they are and how they belong. Terry Herzog talks a little bit about the guidance supports. That's 10 minutes in total. And then we get them out to the programs. Teachers talk about what they're going to be doing for the year, tour the parents all around the building. And they're here about an hour, and I think it helps with the transition to a new school, because all those juniors that come here, for the most part, have been going to other schools for the previous 9 or 10 years, and we want to make sure they get to know us. We had more welcome packs go out the door, and our welcome packs are basically a t-shirt, a water bottle, a sticker, and sunglasses. And if you see a sticker that says RVTC on a bumper, it is probably a student that got one at the back to school night. I get excited when I see them. They're a rare sight, but when you see the little Euro logo that says RVTC on it, that's where it came from.
Great.
And I get excited when the students wear their t-shirts here too.
Any thoughts, questions on that? Okay. Policy review schedule, which is in our packets, I believe.
Yeah. We do not have very many policies. We have done a pile of work in the last 2 years. So I went through and looked at what's been changed, what we need that we don't have. I think 4 policies, Tina. So we're gonna start in October and do 2. 2 more in November. Next year, we're gonna be back on a pretty full cycle of a couple, 3 policies a month for most of the school year, and try to keep that going. But when I went through and looked at what the suggested changes were, there were not enough, and so it didn't make sense to waste your time looking at stuff that we don't need to change.
All right, something to look forward to. All right, I assume no questions or concerns about that. Superintendent's report.
Yeah, we had a lot happen as far as robotics. A lot of work collaborating with Black River Innovation Campus. The last round of STEAM camp was the week of August 5th through 9th, where Miss Wilson did a Let's Make a Video Game session. We had a very good showing on August 12th and 13th of our staff going to the statewide CE conference at J Peak. As far as a percentage of teachers and administration that went, we were right there with the highest, one of the highest percentages. It's good to see. Chris Gray partnered with Black River Innovation Campus to host a robotics community day, and it really was parents, grandparents with kids doing Lego robotics together in 2 sessions in the morning, one here, one in Windsor, and then in the afternoon with educators. What we're really trying to do is get off the ground an elementary robotics piece, and Black River Innovation Campus would take that over and run that because Mr. Gray has enough to do. But it was exciting, a lot of great feedback and positive messages on Facebook, and we'll see where we go. I know we got personal calls about how well it went, so that's awesome. Also Facebook for everybody to see. So okay, yeah, grades 1 through 5 were involved in both places. Mr. Gray was able to get a bunch of free robotics kit. They're a generation behind, but they're great for practice sessions. So we got them for about $750 each, $18,000 total, but they were donated by the company that does them, Vex STEM Robotics. And then we fund part of this work on the robotics with a Perkins grant, but then also there's all kinds of donations that happen to support it. So we have over $4,500 in scholarship donations in total from North Heartland Tools, Sonics, J&L, Tech Ed Products, Lake Machine, American Precision Museum, and Latman Machine, and really is an outcome of a very active advisory committee. And then also we received a donation of $10,000 from the Gene Haas Foundation. That really supports stuff that we do in adult ed and some of the work our students do for certification classes. And then on last Friday, we had guest speakers from industry. Our new industrial trades instructor was sick for the first 3 days of school, couldn't get out of it. So we were scrambling, and really we're fortunate to get 2 great guest speakers last minute. Eric Lafayette was the project manager for energy efficient investments. He's the person that's overseeing the job here at Springfield. We called him Thursday afternoon. He was presenting Friday. Truth be told, he's had a couple of our students work out pretty well for him.
Yeah.
So, and he has projects in the area, but it was great for the students to hear, you got to have great employability skills. And I could hire 2 of you for some jobs right within the next year. And the company's really growing. And then again, based on relationships, our IT guy, Chris Irish, knows somebody in Claremont. He owner operator of All Weather HVAC. He just hired an RVTC student, so he was happy to come over and talk about what he does. And he had a lot in common with them because he was a student just like them at Sugar River, who has a plumbing electrical program. So 2 guys last minute really helped us out. It was very meaningful for our students, and it's great to have you make a call on a Thursday afternoon and they're here Friday helping us out because the students needed something. That all went very, very well. And then you can see some of the meetings that I went to, and that'll ramp up here in the next month or so.
And I'll reinforce the positive feedback on the Lego thing. I had folks talking to me about it. It just was a really cool thing. And
Yeah.
thank the American Precision Museum in Windsor too for their involvement. Any questions or comments on anything in Scott's report?
A lot of those kids that were in robotics last year are in the first year intro class all year long. And as freshmen, they'll earn college credit,
That's great.
which is crazy, which is awesome.
What's that gonna put their total number at, like 30 college credits?
I don't
His
know.
program, it's not.
I don't know.
Never gonna have enough.
Great.
Okay, do we have any other business?
We do not.
I assume next month we'll resume program visits.
Yes, we will.
Okay, so that means we're back at 4:30 for the program visits for those that can be here in person, or we'll certainly zoom you in. And that means our next meeting is October 2nd. If there's no other business, we're adjourned at 5:39. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
See you later.